So this is where the magic happens. And by magic, I mean insomnia and occasionally nightmares. Yeah, I don't know. It felt right to record this from my bed. If you're listening, I'm in bed. I didn't even make my bed, but I did get dressed, so you're welcome. If you're listening, what's happening right now is that I'm doing this on camera for the first time, and wow, that sounds crazy. I'm recording the podcast. And so people can watch it on YouTube. Yeah, it could be you watching this on YouTube right now, or you're watching it on YouTube right now, and you could be listening to it. Either way, if it's your first time listening or watching, my name is Gabby. I am what we like to call a multimedia creative, aka a freelancer, aka I don't make very much money. No, I'm kidding. I am a dancer, an actor, a photographer, a writer, and basically I'll do whatever creative thing you let me do. I love art. I love storytelling. I'm interested in faith, creativity, people. I look ridiculous right now, but this is the only way I can make sure that it's actually working this time. I started this podcast in 2020 when everyone was starting podcasts, and for some reason I've kept up with it. Not very consistently, but I have kept up with it. I've moved a lot of my thoughts to Substack, so I'm going to read to you what I wrote on Substack yesterday. I was in a pretty pessimistic place yesterday, feeling really down and just sort of like hopeless, like scared and stressed, mostly just stressed. And then thank God I sat down to write about it and I felt a lot better. So I thought I would read these thoughts to you out loud. Yeah, I look terrible, but that's okay. So this is called You Know When You Know. A favorite song of mine opens with this lyric. Strength and devotion come without warning. You know when you know what to do. The song was released in 2015, and I've carried it at my side as somewhat of a weapon ever since. This lyric, my reminder in moments of high stress, and there have been many over the past 10 years, that when I need it, whether it be faith, confidence, or strength, it will be there. And the reminder has been necessary, for I have found it over and over very hard to believe. I often lament that a side effect of my misunderstanding of Christianity throughout my early teen to young adult years was a belief that I was inherently flawed and my life's work ought to be spent recovering the perfection God intended for me. The trouble with that idea was that it actually held two beliefs at odds. One, that I was inherently flawed, and two, that perfection must be achieved to honor God. How could I regain perfection if I was doomed to always be bad? I couldn't. And furthermore, Jesus acting as the antidote for my imperfection never sat right with me. I was too committed to the reality of my flawed nature to ever believe I deserved Jesus' saving. So what did it matter whether I was saved or not? I didn't deserve it anyways, and I didn't really believe anyone else did either, which is, side note, and a very problematic way to look at the world, but more on that another time. Now I am relearning a faith that sees the best in others, including myself. A faith that believes if God made me in their image, then I am inherently good. I am inherently worthy. I do not need Jesus to save me. I do not need to get into heaven like it's an Ivy League school that will secure me a good job. I need only to know that goodness exists and to be passionate about its perpetuation. As Martin Luther King Jr. said perfectly, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. I need only to follow the teachings of Jesus and other wise and often radical people who insist on perpetuating goodness even in the face of evil, even in the face of places and people who insist on spreading the kinds of lies that instill fear and hate. Take the bishop speaking to Trump this past week. But even in my learning and unlearning, it has been difficult for me to trust that what is good and right will be good and right because it is and not because I make it so. That many things, good and bad, are out of my control. That faith is what we apply to the things unseen, the situations unknown. My 2025 began at the beach with a few of my best friends, and there is a full YouTube video mini-movie available to you if you'd like to watch it. It was a slow, silly, and utterly lovely handful of days spent being lost in a place where being lost is always allowed. At sea. Upon making the trip home on New Year's Day, the reality and busyness of life crept dutifully back into my mind, my bones, my soul. It said, enough of that rest. Now what are you going to do? In 2024, I had my heart set on growing up a little bit, and in my mind, that meant getting a real job. If you are new to me in my life, a real job would entail a job with hours and a salary and, God willing, some benefits like getting to go to the doctor or the dentist. P.S. I turned 26 last year, so it felt very important. A real job, it would be one that you interview, not audition for. A real job would be easy to explain when a date asks, what do you do? A real job would solve away my existentialism and finally assure me that, yes, you've done enough. A real job would ensure that I've done a good job, that I'm on the right track, that I am okay. And so I sent out application after cold email after application and even spent 6 months working part-time in retail, and yet I ended the year the way I started, with no real job, but still alive. No real job, but still surviving. No real job, but having done some work that I'm really, really proud of. As I'm writing this, we're almost a full month into the new year. And over the course of just 1 month, I will have shot a wedding, gotten to perform with one of my best friends, which I'm doing tonight, been offered a brand deal I've been praying for, I've auditioned tens of times, I've seen snow, and I've spent some really lovely and wonderful quality time with the people I love. But before I started writing this, I was sitting at my computer pouting, scared of what I do not know about my future, mourning losses for projects I did not book and boys who didn't love me back, scrolling through job applications, searching for a sense of worth and purpose, and wondering if I'm doing enough, if I will ever just get it right. Luckily, I remembered that song. I remembered that strength and devotion come without warning. I remembered a bad poem I found in my notes recently titled Thankful for the Nose. It goes like this. Thankful for the nose, to the things I wanted and could have had that if I'd had would have kept me from having the things I didn't want but really did need. And as I am writing or reading this and remembering and starting to climb out of that self-deprecating and seriously mean hole that I tend to dig for myself, I realize that maybe the first step toward wisdom is just reaching for those reminders. Those poems and lyrics and practices, the ones that tell you the things you're not sure you believe, but the more and more you listen to them, you know that at least they're true, whether you've really accepted them or not. The ones that help you remember, you'll know when you know what to do. So yeah, I always feel kind of like weird and selfish writing about myself, talking about myself and my experiences, because like, who cares? But then I have to remind myself that like it's expressions of self and experience, like this song by Vanessa Carlton, that encourage me to keep going. And I'm really grateful for them, and I'm really grateful for those expressions. So while I do not by any stretch of the imagination feel that I have the power to change anyone, make their life better, if I can offer encouragement, that's cool with me. Thanks for watching or listening, whatever it is you're doing. If you're listening to this, you could watch this on YouTube. My YouTube is just my name, Gabby Fenimore. And if you're watching this, you could also listen to it at Gabby Gabs Podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to read this, you could read it on Substack. The name of my publication is Gabby Gabs, and I'll put all my social media nonsense in the description of this. Thanks again. See you next time. Talk to you next time. Bye.